Have you ever wondered what really takes to stay successful in real estate for decades, not just here? Hi, welcome back to the channel. Today I am going to be interviewing Shanne Carvalho, who has over 25 years of experience in the business, very much so, very involved, boots on the ground, has done luxury deals, worked with diverse type of background clients. And today he's going to be here talking to us what it looks like being in this business for so long, yet still striving, growing, being a top performer. He's located in the sunny Bay Area of California. So we're going to be breaking down everything, but most important that he's going to touch on, and I don't want you to miss, is just how critical and how important it is to have a strong mindset with, changes in the market, shifts and everything that has been going on. So let's dive into this interview today because I am so excited and you're going to learn a lot. Let's do it. Thank you so much, everybody, for sticking in. As I shared my introduction, Shanne is like an amazing realtor. Not only that, he's been in the business for many years. He's a coach. He is like, bring his heart and his passion in everything he does. And I feel like I've been fortunate in the last few years, to get a chance to meet him, see how he works, and call him truly a friend. He's always been there whenever I needed a little advice. So now you get a chance to hear from him. Hey, Shanne, how's it going? How are you?
Great. I'm glad we finally were able to coordinate getting together on here.
I know. I'm so happy to have you here. I know you're a busy man, so we're, very thrilled for the opportunity. So, I would love, I know some of your story, but I feel like every time I do, these interviews, I get to know even more the people I'm speaking with, but also to give an introduction for those that are watching us today. Please share, like, where, you're in California, but like, where did everything started even before real estate? How did you get into real estate? And I know you have a long story, but let's talk about it.
Feel free to cut me off where you need to. That is, well, shoot, it is a long time. This is actually we're approaching year 27, which is crazy. This is 1999. Holy moly. Yeah, and it's interesting because, my parents are immigrants from Portugal and they came here to Santa Cruz County here in, California, years ago, back 60s, 70s when the family came over. And it's interesting because they did what immigrants do, right? You find, they came over because Portugal had those major earthquakes, and then the US had offered amnesty, or, they do the whole thing where the people can immigrate and stuff. And essentially they came over and they were doing just like, the jobs like orchards, housekeeping, factories, like all that stuff. But then, my dad ended up becoming, his own general contractor. He finally went to work for a contractor, got to have his own business. My mom actually ended up doing hair and was really good at it, ended up having a beauty salon. They retired a few years ago, but they kind of built the American dream. They basically, then they had, I'm the oldest of four boys. And so basically, there's four of us, and we, have a little bit of a gap in the middle, but, my brother below me ended up taking over my dad's company when he retired in construction. I focused on real estate. I also got my contractor's license because he couldn't keep up with all the work that we do on our properties. But what really got me going was when I was in school, well, there's two parts, and I'm gonna try to keep this short, but in junior high, I went to private school. One of my best friends, his his brother-in-law, which by chance was also Portuguese, like when we were in junior high, we thought this guy was so cool. He had married his sister, my best friend's sister, and he used to be around a lot, family and stuff. And he drove like this BMW. He had these cool sunglasses, and he worked for like Bank of America doing loans and stuff. He was like Joe Cool. Like we idolized this guy. And it's like he made all this money, and it's like, I was like, man, I want to make money like that. Because when you're young, you're really driven by wealth, or, like just that's kind of what you know. And so it's funny because I started kind of looking into lending and such, and just got really interested as I went into high school and just kind of thinking about business and where I wanted to go. But anyway, long story short, what ended up happening is that when I did end up going to college a few years later, um, I worked at Wells Fargo Bank as like a teller. I helped the merchants and stuff while I was in college. And when I was at this branch in San Jose, because I went up to San Jose State, in the Silicon Valley, this broker used to come in, this real estate broker, and I was always like, we're always having competitions like to sell credit cards or different things. And so I was always hitting these people up for stuff to sell them stuff. And this broker told me one day, he's like, geez, every time I'm here, you're like selling me something. He's like, you seems like you're good at this. I'm like, yeah, I want to win because we have these competitions. But he told me one day, he's like, why don't you come see me at my office after work? You know, because I feel like you're probably not making a lot per hour. I mean, I'm in a business where you can actually make real money. And that's funny because that, obviously earlier in my youth, kind of looking up to people and seeing what people were doing, I kind of had a sense of real estate and lending and money, and then working at the bank and seeing the money coming in from the businesses. It kind of all was kind of computing for me. So I went to go meet with him. He told me to go take principles of real estate, and then when I passed, he would reimburse me and to come work. But that never materialized because in the middle, well, I did start the course and everything, but I didn't follow through to my license right then, because I ended up getting recruited by a mortgage company in Seattle. And so I moved to actually Bellevue in 1999. And I was working for a broker that did loans all over the country. And so I ended up, obviously growing up my teenage years working construction, the family business. Then I rolled into lending. Anyway, I ended up being there for 3 years. I loved it up there. If my family wasn't down here, I would have stayed up there. I mean, you're lucky to live there. It's such a beautiful place.
Yes.
So much to enjoy. You have all the seasons, you have all the sports, you have all the, I love to fish, and I love to, like, we used to go up to Vancouver, used to go skiing in the mountains, used to go out fishing, used to like, there's just so much to do. So like it just, and like, I don't know, it's just an amazing place. But then, California prices were so much higher at the time. And it's funny, when I left, I was in escrow on a place in Kirkland on the water for 300,000, and I didn't close it, which I wish I had. It's probably worth 2 million now or 3
Oh,
million. But
easily.
anyway, yeah, I was in escrow my first place and stuff when I left. But I mean, I got offered a job back home here in California, and so I came back to be close to family and everything. And anyway, eventually I was able to shift into the sales because that's what I really wanted to, I got my license for. But I did get my California license, so I came back and yeah, I took off on this crazy career of I've done it all in real estate, short sales and REOs and relocations and it's second homes, investment properties, multi-unit, like fix and flip, like all of it. Like I've done everything and really have learned the business inside and out. And so with a background in construction, lending, and in real estate, it's I've really like mastered like the actual business. Where I've not been super strong is on the technology side. Obviously, tech's been increasing a lot because you can't be obviously good at everything. But I think that, where I've been more challenged, where I've really tried to bring myself up to date is in technology and such. But anyway, not to carry on, I mean, essentially, I got my start basically just doing all kinds of random jobs in high school and stuff, and including construction, working at the bank, working in a kitchen, washing dishes, cleaning bathrooms. I mean, I've done it all. And then, I progressed into when I went to Seattle, I was doing loans, came back to loans for a while, transferred into real estate, eventually got my contractor's license as well because I wanted to have a crew to work on my projects. And at the end of the day, what did happen is I realized I absolutely love this and I wake up every day excited to do it. And I realized one of my favorite things, aside from helping our clients, is transforming properties. I'm so passionate about taking properties and transforming them, whether it's for my clients that are selling or buying or my own flips or whatever. First and foremost, I love helping people, but then the passion of just being creative and helping people build wealth, is what really excites me.
And I mean, you're really good at that, and I feel like you're so well-rounded. Every time that I have an opportunity to talk with you, if it's, in a call or if it's in person, some of our events, like you have a wealth of experience. And 27 years, not a lot of people can say that, right? That they're there, they're thriving and doing amazing in real estate because you are. So let's talk a little bit about like, I know it's a lot of years, right? But love to touch on the mindset because you have seen it all, right? You've been in different markets. You help clients doing a lot of different projects as you shared, and there's obviously some agents that have been in the business as long, but I feel like the majority are newer agent in the last 5 years, right? That are maybe watching this. Just like, how much have you had to work on your mindset for just the differences in the market? We keep hearing last year was the worst year. And then I remember in 2024 hearing that the year before was the worst year. But it's just like always perspective as well. I mean, granted, I get it, interest rate and all the other things, but like, how do you work with your mindset in the different, cycles of real estate?
Well, yeah, I mean, look, I mean, I'm human too at the end of the day, and it's just not easy. Starting out, I think one thing that's important is to really have kind of your goals and everything in order. Not just like, oh, I want to make this much money or sell as many deals, but just like, what's your why? Like, why are you doing this? I mean, you're going to commit a lot of your life to this. Why are you doing it? What drives you? You have to absolutely be passionate to live in a world like this. Like, you absolutely have to be committed and love it because it could be the most stressful, it's probably one of the most stressful things that people do. Like they always talk
Mhm.
about buying, selling their houses, moving. Moving's stressful. Who likes moving? But one thing I can tell you is that, coming in um to the market when I did, I mean, I came into 99 into the 2005 boom. I was here for the 2008, 2009 crash. I mean, I've been through, every phase. And there's a couple things. So first of all, before you even get into the actual mindset, just the business sense,
Mhm.
adaptability. Like I have always preached adaptability. Even when I started in lending, when I was up there in Bellevue working for the lenders, hey, when rates are good for, government loans, we're doing VA streamlines, When rates aren't good to refinance, but people need money, you're doing second loan debt consolidations, right? Like it's like, oh, there's not a lot of purchases right now, so let's focus on, seconds or something else. Like it's always been adaptability. It was adaptability in lending, adaptability in construction. Now it's been adaptability in sales, meaning that you follow the market. You basically just have to adapt with what's happening in the market. And then, of course, once you get later in your career, you have such an established clientele that comes back that you're always juggling different types of transactions. But so as far as like the mindset when you get into these markets, look, I mean, early on, even like with for instance, when I was doing mortgage at the very beginning, it's like I didn't want to invest in the stock market because I always wanted it to do bad because I wanted rates to go down, right? It's like it was stupid things like this. Like my mind was kind of like twisted about the fact that it's like you have these thoughts, and you didn't realize that everything can happen at the same time. You can be successful in different facets. You don't need other things to fail for one thing to do good. And
Mhm.
then that kind of goes along with the whole adaptability of like, kind of following what's going on. So early on, I think that one of my first challenges was when you're new in the business, it's like, well, where am I going to get my business? What I'm going to start? So I picked a brokerage based on I wanted a brokerage that had a lot of training because I want to go through all this training because it's going to help me. But what's interesting is that what I quickly learned is, yeah, it was great. They had great training and stuff. I went to a couple of classes, but then it's like I started getting business, and it's like that's the best way to learn, just work these deals. And when I transferred into sales, it was during a lot of the short sales, REOs, and all that. So I came into a hard market with fax machines, carbon copy contracts with you handwrite. It's my writing sucks. Sometimes I had to start over. Like you have to fax these short sale packages to the banks. I mean, you have to meet your clients in person all the time. It was very challenging to like, really get going as a new agent back then. And what I found was that, there was some like sometimes you felt alone, even those people around you. It's like everybody's busy, so you kind of have to learn on your own. And so I think that, luckily I had the background of loans to understand enough about the process and the documents and stuff. But it was, it was a little scary at first, really, just kind of forging your way. And then what I realized too is just, you're like this big net when you start. It's like whatever comes in. So it's like I get myself working on just like tough things and difficult situations and stuff that didn't pay very much and so it's like, it was a little frustrating sometimes at first, but I'm obviously not one to brag. I mean, I stay pretty humble, but at least want to share that. Look, one thing that I was proud of was my third year in real estate. I was number one in the whole brokerage, and I was doing bottom of the barrel stuff. I wasn't doing the luxury and all that stuff. I was doing the bank owned short sales, like all the crappy stuff. My average sales price was only like 220,000. That was my average sales price. My average sales price now is 1.8 million. Like if you
Yeah.
do the math like do the math on that. What is that? 900% increase? So
Yeah.
so it's like I wasn't, like I remember like it was 2011, I think. I closed 41 transactions and made like 220,000 in gross. Like, which that was a lot of money back then, but that was a lot of work to make that money. And so it's like it was like, wow, this was a lot of work. I decided to hire an assistant to help me. Obviously that came out of that as well. And it was like, it was like, okay, well, I want to keep doing this, but then the next step was like, okay, well, how can I do this and actually make real money? So then my goal was back then luxury was over $1 million. Like, you know what? I want to do luxury. How am I going to get into luxury? And then it took like trying to find agents that could let me do their open houses in areas where I wanted to work. And honestly, once I had a breakthrough with one of these open houses and I sold one of these over $1 million houses, I realized that, it's like it took like some self-confidence and belief. Because when you're new, that's the other thing is that you're gonna go compete for a listing or it's like you're always afraid that the clients are gonna ask you questions or like I'm always gonna be honest, but you're always worried they're gonna be like, you don't have any experience. But the thing is that what I had to teach myself, which I teach agents I mentor now, is be confident, always be honest, but be confident. Understand that a lot of these people you're going to work with, some people, sure, they buy and sell a lot, but some of these people, they've either never bought before, or maybe it's the first time they're going to sell. Even if you've only done a couple of transactions or you knew with your training and everything you've been doing, you're obviously able to lead them because you know more than they do. So it's like, so there was a lot of different things to affect your mindset starting out, right? But then just to fast forward, because we could be here all day, right? But just to fast forward to kind of different things that have challenged mindset in a bigger way is so sure, there was this kind of feeling your way, building your confidence, getting established, finding, the things that you could do to be more effective with your time, figuring out how to like build your reputation and build your business to make it something that would be almost like auto-generating the business and start going, not something that you always have to like feel like you're starting over every time you close something. But fast forward to, a few years later and look, when you are doing anything for a long time, life happens, right? Divorce or marriage, having a baby, um, health issues. I mean, heck, I've had my share. I've always been fairly healthy, but 40th birthday in bed, was in bed for 3 months with a herniated disc in my neck that they thought they were going to have to replace surgically. And by a miracle with physical therapy and a couple of shots, I was able to get rid of that. It took me 11, 12 months to get through that. But I mean, I was in real estate on a couch on an ice pack on my back for like 3 or 4 months. I was actually still selling houses, but it's like that was my first real big health issue was at 40. But then, fast forward past that, I mean, I've had just just a lot went wrong. Things are getting better now, but I mean, just to kind of name a few, I mean, I had 3 different COVIDs, 3 different times. I had high blood pressure, Bell's palsy. I put on 60 pounds. I, collapsed, ended up in the ER, and I found out I had cancer. So I had cancer surgery to remove part of a kidney. So I had kidney cancer. Then I ended up with like this horrible sciatica for a few months and never had sciatica. Like my left foot was dragging. I had to deal with that. And I found out my right meniscus was torn. I mean, as you get older, it's just like I'm very active and very athletic and such, and I like to take care of myself, but it's just like, these are things that happen and you still have to adjust. So like there's,
Yeah.
all these life, health, whatever, and those are things you have to adjust. And then of course, going to the other piece you're talking about, like you're talking about like the last couple of years, how it's been the least real estate volume that we've seen or sales volume in like 30 years. I mean, look, here's what I'm telling people that I coach or mentor is, people are always buying and selling. Maybe not as many are selling. Somebody still has to sell those. So why can't it be you? Because that's the whole thing is like for some reason, and maybe I'm guilty of this sometimes too, is that we always feel like we're the ones that are not going to win or we're the ones that are left out. Like most of us don't have enough self-confidence to be like, that's me right there. Like, and I know you have a lot of confidence. Like I know that you're the kind of person, it's one of the things I admire about you. You're one of the people that count yourself in. Like, you can do it. Like, you know what I mean? But not everybody has that. And that's one thing that I do admire like about you because I know that, maybe you don't know how to do it today or maybe it's something new or whatever, but you're gonna go figure it out.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I'm the same way. I mean, I just like let's figure it out. But but look, like, this brings you back to the adaptability. Well, there's not a lot of volume or interest rates are high or whatever. Well, shoot, interest rates are high. Okay, well, if the buying's slowing down, there's going to be some deals out there. There's inventory. So go get creative with buyers and go get them deals. And then with sellers, figure out how to help sellers still be able to get a good price to move and do what they need to do. Just like you just have to adapt.
Hmm.
Like literally today when we're talking about mindset, here's a problem that I've run into. So in 2014, I think 2014, it's when I learned my lesson about not being able to be bought. I had a multi-million dollar, like a big listing. It was over 15 million. I just don't want to be too specific because I don't want, I don't want to call anything out, right? But just at a very large listing, had negotiated a fair commission on it and was excited about it. These people happen to be very, there's nothing wrong with people being wealthy. Like I love that, but it's just, I don't know if you probably deal with it where you're at because like there's wealthy people that are humble, cool, easy to work with. Like a lot of my clients, I work with a lot of people that are very affluent, they're just multimillionaires, but they're so nice, so respectful, just the way they treat you. But I just had this batch of clients that were just talk, they're just awful. Like they just like talk down to you, they're rude. They're just used to people like doing anything they can to get their business. Like they're just used to people just like almost bowing down. And it's just like I've never been that guy. But remember how I told you earlier in the beginning of your career how you have this big net? You're just
Yeah.
trying to get everything you can. Well, that was about, that was a few years into the business. And this is the lesson I learned. I walked away from that listing right when it was expiring. I didn't want to extend it. They were shocked I was walking away from it. They're, you don't walk away from like 225,000 or whatever it was. That's a lot of money back then.
Yeah.
You're gonna walk away with it? Yeah, I am. And not only did I walk away from that one, I walked away from three other ones for a total of about $22 million in listings. And if you do the math with, real estate commissions, that's over $500,000 in commission, right? That was one of my big lessons, right? So for the whole mindset thing was like, okay, abundance versus scarcity, self-respect, boundaries. And so that's where I started being more conscious. That was a few years into my career. It took me a few years to actually be more conscious about here's my boundary on how I need to be treated.
Hmm.
Here's the kind of people I want to serve. This is like I had to be discerning about the business I was going to do. I remember my broker calling me in and being like, dude, what's going on? Like, are you okay? Like, I was like, you know what? I actually just learned a life lesson. Well, it's like, okay, that's a pretty expensive lesson, but yeah, that was a life changer. That was a life changer. Like that was a very important moment in my career that really I started to build the discipline for being better about trusting abundance versus scarcity, and also demanding a certain level of respect. And so then getting more picky. One thing I never did is I never cherry picked. I help everybody. It doesn't matter if it's a $40,000 mobile home. I help my clients. I mean, I got to be cautious how much time I invest into certain things. Because at the end of the day, having a business, having overhead and everything else, you do have to be profitable. I mean, so you got to be cautious what you dive into. But what I'm saying is I've never been the person that like sometimes people would call me and be like, yeah, I had this $1 million house, but I don't feel like it's expensive enough for you because I see your listings and stuff. I'm like, a million? Like, no, like you're not. I mean, come at me with like a $2,000 piece of land and maybe we can talk about it. But no, I mean, come on, I don't do that. So it just, so that was like a big piece of the whole mindset and kind of how to manage that as you mature through your career. But then, the other piece too was, people that like you just get it. Like I'm really intuitive and I really haven't listened to it a lot until the last few years. But like, I mean, if someone's already trying to like cut commission or say they don't want to do anything to fix their house or like you just start getting these vibes from people and it's like you should just say sorry, this is not going to work with us, bye. But it's like still part of that net in the back of your mind. Well, oh, but this one's on the street in one of the neighborhoods I do a lot of business in. Oh, this is a busy street, like put a sign right here, like I want to do, like you start justifying why you should either give them a discount or be okay with doing things the way they want or pricing it ridiculous. And so I swear, like every time I would do that, it was never a good ending. Like
Hmm.
it either would take forever to sell, you lose money, people are upset, then maybe it ends up expiring or taking it out. I mean, it was just a nightmare. So that discernment, I had to be very disciplined with a mindset about abundance versus scarcity, knowing that I can pass on this, we're not a match, but there's going to be more behind it. Like not feeling like this is it. Even if you're like, well, this month I don't have a lot going, it'd be nice to have a little extra money coming in. Maybe I'll do it. No, don't do it. Don't do it. The thing is that I don't think I've ever had, well, I've only maybe in my career, maybe there's only been two that I wish I hadn't passed on. Two maybe, and that I can remember in the last 10 years even. But most of the time you're never going to have any regret on passing on those things. Just like earlier when I had a mindset talk earlier, it was like people that are not in your life anymore. Like how often do you look back and regret, gosh, I wish I had kept that toxic person in my life. Like,
Hmm.
no, like people that are not in your circle anymore that just were not a match. Not that they're bad people, just wasn't someone that should be in your circle. I don't remember anyone that I have any regrets not being here anymore. You know what I mean? I'm not talking about people passing away. I'm talking about like people like
Yeah,
not in
yeah,
your
yeah.
circle. But anyway, I mean, we could go on and on, but does this kind of give you a feel for what I mean with the whole mindset?
Well, and I think you really touched like one, thank you for expanding on that because you've been through so many different aspects, in a business, and I think that really gives like a perspective on that. It's not that it's just easy, but also making hard decisions or sometimes going through, tough seasons, and still having to do the work. And I think, you're touching, the being adaptable. I feel like it's a huge thing in this business because there's so many things that it's outside of our control, right? And all we can do, it's within our control, which is usually ourselves. And then we can guide, advise, whoever we're working with on the other end. And I think and you touched something that I know it's really tough for agent. It's just like, saying no, because you think you're in this business, you have to say yes to everybody. And I think the same way, I go to a lot of if I'm like, vetting a new buyer or a seller, it's not just them deciding if they want to work with me, right? We also have the authority to decide if we want to work with them. And I think it's just like, and I feel like that's where it shifts the energy, right? Because when if you go just like, oh, I hope they pick me, I hope they pick me, then you're already kind of bringing that energy. They have all this power that they can
Right.
decide or not
We
if
give
they're
them too
going to.
much power. Yeah.
Yeah,
And,
absolutely. And this has
you,
not been something I'm gonna say that I always done it, but it's just like even if it's just the posture of like I'm also deciding if I want to work with this person after I meet with them. I already walked in, if it's a video or if it's in person, with a different energy. It's not a need energy, but more of like, let's see if this is gonna be a good fit. And I think the more you do deals, and I'm not in the business like forever. I'm only about to enter my fourth year, but that was something that I was able to notice. And I already had to fire, it was at the time was going to be probably my largest deal at the time, like a almost a $2 million, listing. And, the man was just too aggressive, and I was just like, you can't talk to me like that. If I let him talk to me like that, I'm going to be like, he's going to, eat my head alive throughout this whole negotiation and the whole process and everything. And
Mhm.
I had to back away. But it was the best thing. I know, like, there's no regrets, even like the time, right? The paycheck, all of those things. And you want to have to be able to be that, put that sign on and say, like,
Mhm.
I'm only in the business for a year. Look at me, but it was not going to be good for my health, literally, like
Yeah.
that. He was just mentally, it was just, and then you might be working with one client that it's sucking all your energy. And then all of a sudden you could have a lot many more, right? Coming, as you
That's
said,
yeah.
you
Yeah.
opening space for something better. That abundance
Right.
mindset, it's amazing.
Yeah. Well, and
And
oh, go ahead.
no,
Sorry.
no, no, you please,
No,
please.
I was gonna say that what you vocalized, which I didn't vocalize, was that we're also interviewing to see if we want to work with them, and I didn't vocalize that enough. So thanks for bringing that up. I mean, good example I had was I thrive on setting neighborhood records because of the way we prep, and I help my sellers. I want to help my sellers kind of flip their house, and
Hmm.
so over the years, there's a lot of homes that I've sold where I've just like broken the neighborhood record. In fact, there's some neighborhoods still where it's probably the highest ever sold. I thrive on that, and I know what to do. I know what to do to get it there. I'm also good at the negotiation part. What's interesting is I get calls all the time when I close some of these properties, especially when I sell things that like in areas that things aren't selling. Like I just sold one here in the mountains over list price, 52 groups through a mountain open house in December, in the cold, in the mountains, like up in the mountains, fire insurance, 24,000 a year. Sold that place for 120 some thousand over list, had a backup offer, another 75,000 above that, and multiple offers. Sold out so fast. People have been calling me left and right, like because things in the mountains are for months, especially in the winter. And so anyway, there was this one story really quick that a few years ago that, there was this listing I sold that I helped those clients buy and finish building it. It was an REO that was a construction REO. So I had to bring in my contractor. We finished building it out. They moved in, lived there for a while. Then we sold it so they could move to something else. And I sold that for a lot of money, well over $1 million back then. And so a lot of neighbors and people that were on the market were calling me. So this one lady called me because her house hadn't sold and she canceled her listing. She wanted me to list her house. So I went out there with my stager and we were walking it with her. Well, all of a sudden this lady's like, yeah, I went to staging classes and I took staging certification or whatever. And so we're walking this property and, she's like, we're telling her like the kind of things we're going to want to do so that we can, she called me on the professional. How'd you work your magic? Over here, giving her guidance, telling her what we're going to do. Oh, resisting. Well, I don't really want to do that. Well, I don't really want these drapes done. Oh, like, I don't know why you want to do that. Like, I have my staging. I'm like, and so like, then she started getting a little snippy with my, like sometimes the women can have that, we call it what, cattiness, or what do you call it? Like when women kind of go at it with each other. And they were not vibing. It was not going well. And so I just, I just stopped. I said, you know what? Thank you so much for the opportunity. It's not going to be a good fit. I walked away.
Yeah.
That was one of the first times. And that was quite a few years ago. That was years ago, actually. That was a lot of years ago, actually. Anyway, long story short, that it's moments like that where I was proud of myself, for just, I mean, that would have been awful. And it's like, and the thing is how ridiculous is that? They reach out to you because you just like hit a home run. So it's like, then if you want that person to help you, why wouldn't you just follow their advice? If they were
Yeah.
so great that you wanted them to come and help you, I mean, obviously, if you're so good, then you would have sold it with the last person. Like, it just didn't. So it's like, I started, because always so aggressive to do more and more, sell more and more. Like, we're not, because I'm a hustler. So it's like, I was always trying to hustle and get as much as I could. I wanted, it's almost like I want to help as many people as I can, but it's almost like a game because I love putting up numbers and not even so much from the income because I don't even think about the income, honestly. Like, that's how we make a living, but that's not what I focus on. I just like doing numbers. I like making things happen. I like helping people. And that's the exciting part. So sometimes, I'd be so focused on, helping getting it done that I wouldn't be discerning enough or take a
Yeah.
moment. And so anyway, so that's it for that. But I'm glad that you've already seen that and you've been able to walk away. And it's not always that they're bad people or whatever, it's just not the right personality match. Or they need to be schooled a little bit. They need to go find someone they can, I call it the tail wagging the dog. If from the first moment the client's taking control, you're done. That's why, like,
Yeah.
when it comes to them trying to discount your commission or telling you they don't want to repair whatever they want to do, if it's like comes from this, it's one thing for someone to want to negotiate or try to get a good deal for themselves or whatever. That's one thing. But when people come at you, and you know what I'm talking about. When people come at you, it's like that's the first sign to run
Yeah.
because
Pretty much.
yeah. Well, because here's the thing: if you're the professional and they're hiring you, then you need to be in charge. You need to drive things. So just like what you're saying, when you go with the mindset of abundance, like not desperation, it shouldn't be like, oh, I hope they pick me. It's like they're gonna pick me because I'm the best, and if they don't, well, hopefully whoever helps them does a good job. But you
Yeah.
know, like I feel confident when I go into a lot of these. I mean, I hardly ever compete. Most of my are repeat and referral, but when I compete, I always go in confident and I share and I don't tiptoe. Like I don't care if my comps show a lower price because I'm not trying to just get a listing. I want to be successful. I'm going to invest anywhere from five to $20,000 of my own money to get it sold. If it doesn't sell, I'm going to lose that money. So it's like, I mean, I'm trying to invest with the client. So if we're not aligned, I'm not really interested in losing money and time if I don't have to. Like it is, there's no desire. So it's like I'll go in there and I don't care if Joe Blow said he could sell it for 500,000 more than I can. I just tell them like, here's the data. I'm gonna try and do even better. I always try to do as much as I can, but I want to keep it real. I'm not just trying to sign a listing.
Mhm.
If you do take Joe Blow, keep me in mind when it doesn't sell, and I'll come in and help you. You know, I and I'm okay with that because a lot of people do that too. They play that game where let me give them a really high price so I can get it. Some agents are even shady with that. They do that on purpose and then they reduce the heck out of it. And I've brought in buyers to buy properties like that where even the sellers have been pissed at me at the end of the transaction saying, I can't believe you guys brought in such offer. I'm like, well, like I had one that I sold on the beach that I ended up getting it for 1.9 for my clients. They listed it like at 5.5 million. Like I'm like, you're out of your minds. And
That's
so
crazy.
I remember like this older lady that lived there when they were moving their stuff out. She was there one day when I was getting the keys. Oh, you're that guy. I'm like, well, if you remember, I came and interviewed for the listing with your family, and I was literally going to list it at 1,895. So the fact that my buyers bought it for 1.9 and had you carry $500,000 and seller carry back at 4% or whatever,
Hmm.
I pretty much you spent 10 months or whatever it had been, almost a year to get here. I could have had this sold last year because so it's just like, that's the whole thing is like, some people are shady. They're going to just Like I want to get the listing and then I'll just, that's not in the best interest of the client and that's not good business. So I mean, I
Well,
think
and
that,
that's why sometimes expires, of course, is because of, the price is not right. And I get it. Some sellers, sometimes they do have some magic numbers and they think, the market somehow it's supposed to do that. But yeah, but most of the time, that a home get expired, it's either price or presentation. And that's kind of,
by the way, yeah, well, a quick one on that one, it's price. I love this one. This one's so fun. Tell those sellers, hey, would you pay that for this house? Oh, that one's always fun. Because I mean, they can't look me in the face and say yes. Like I've never gotten a yes with confidence. I've always gotten a like, hmm, yeah,
make them
right.
think.
Well, I mean, let's be real. Like, people aren't stupid, especially in these multi-million dollar price ranges. I mean, people aren't dumb. And now with all these tools at their fingertips with Zillow and all these other sites and Redfin and all the, I mean, it's all these tools online, right? So people are
Yep.
always like on all
Yep.
these sites. And that's the other thing, selling against that stuff sometimes. I sold a house here for 2.9 million that those apps were telling me that, or telling everybody it was only worth 1.3, 1.4. I had so many people complaining about that. I said, look, here's the data. I live here. This is my market. I promise you 2.9 is a really good deal for this property. It's fair. And it ended up selling at 2.9 to some awful buyers now that I think about it. But anyway, long story short, it's just that, yeah, there's a lot of info out there for people, and the more sophisticated people will understand. But sometimes even some of these things will like lead them astray. But yeah,
Yeah, no,
stay
and
the
and it,
course.
it's there's just working with people, right? There's personalities, all of these things that like the more you have the opportunity, as you shared, even like training is great, but where you're gonna get your practice if you're not putting, whatever you're learning in, to get in front of people, to talk more, to close deals, to go through different scenarios because every scenario is gonna be different. It's not always exactly the same. And you're building, the backbone and whatnot. And just kind of throwing out there, I'm gonna be putting all Shane's information on the description. So if there's any, you want to follow him, see what he's up to. He's always doing a lot of projects, so it's really cool just to see what he's up to. And then also, like as he said, like training is important, which if you're gonna actually do it, right? Because there's a lot of trainings out there, free things that you can find on, online these days. But then also, I think there's a community. And that's something that I feel like it's very unique and special of what we have because, I've been part of the same group that Shane is for the last almost 4 years. And the friendship that we have built, the just like, hey, wow, you're doing that one thing. Like, can you get on a call with me? And I want to learn that from you. It's just like everything's shared, which is just like that proximity to people that are, winning and also willing to help out. So definitely consider us if you are like in that point in your career right now that you're like, hey, I need a shift, I need a change. And not only just like a training from someone that maybe did this like, 20 years ago. And even like using Shane as an example, like he's still very much involved and boots on the ground. You probably don't need to work anymore, Shane. Like I know work comes to you, but you're just so passionate and you love it and you just, so involved. So you have, stories, scenarios, to that I know you're helping the agents in your group and coaching them, how to be successful because you have like just a track record. And I was as we were wrapping up and we're starting 2026, I was just like, if you want to leave something here for some of the agents that are, maybe they're feeling stuck or regardless if they're new or they have been in the business and 2025 maybe wasn't the best year for them. Like, what are either strategy or just some final thoughts that you want to share, with whoever it's listening to just kind of finding tune and stay focused for 2026.
Well, what's interesting, a big one that's applied for the last couple of years is keep doing the work even when you don't see the results.
Mm,
Like be consistent. I mean, look, if you never get results, then maybe you got to check what you're doing. But
yeah.
if you're being guided and told, here's what's worked for me, do this, and you're doing it consistently, you're gonna reap the rewards. And I mean, look, as a new agent in markets like ours, where you're selling multi-million dollar houses, I mean, even starting out, even if you're only selling three or four houses, I mean, heck, that's pretty good paycheck. Like
Yeah.
you're gonna do just fine, like getting your training wheels going. But yeah, that's one of the best tips is be consistent, even when you're not getting the results. Because too many people now, there's too many distractions. Well, let me go do this, let me go do that, let me try this, let me try that. Here's this new technology, here's this gadget, here's this style. It's it's just yeah, it's like you get so distracted. So don't be distracted, be focused. And I think another one is go find someone. It doesn't have to be someone you're going to go hire or pay, but find a mentor, someone that
Mm.
can guide you. Find some kind of leadership, some kind of coaching, some kind of collaboration. Join a mastermind. Like just stay engaged. Stay engaged with someone who can help you not have to reinvent the wheel. Because there's so much business out there. And even this year, it started. I mean, the last 6 weeks already, just market's been on fire. There's so much business out there. You just have to go get it. It's so much. There's so much abundance.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, I love it. And I think it's just like, it's just everything's aligned. It's just like be adaptable, know your boundaries, not only getting the training, but, find the right people to be associated with because I feel like that helps in everything. And then the last thing you shared, I feel like that's even something that I am adjusting with my business this year. It's just like, I feel like everything works in real estate, right? Whatever the activity is, as you say, be consistent, then eventually you're going to reap the reward. But then when you're just trying to do too many things at the same time, then you never really get really good and rooted in something. So,
Right,
pick that one or two things and just run with it. And yes, maybe the first few months you might not see like, closing deals left and right, but it will create a momentum because of the consistency. I don't think I ever heard of anybody that I have talked to in real estate that, them being consistent, they never got any deals. Them being consistent, they never closed any deals. So
right.
there's something there for sure.
Yeah, well,
Well,
and you said, oh, sorry, before you wrap up, I was
yeah,
going to
yeah,
say, you
yeah.
said one or two things. Well,
Please,
what I
please.
tell people is the first thing is always your sphere. Like your sphere is like the low-hanging fruit, the highest conversion. Always work your sphere and then pick one other thing, whether it's expireds or, mailing or something like YouTube or like just have like your baseline always be like your sphere and the clientele that you build. And then always nurture and grow them and your local businesses and such. And then, pick one or two of these other ones and then just stay like run hard with those. And eventually, once those are mastered and doing their thing, if you want to add something else, you can. But yeah, I just want to reiterate that because that's really important. That's where agents are getting lost nowadays.
No, and I agree with you because I feel like gosh, I don't remember. Was it 3 years ago when I went to California and we met at a coffee shop? And I remember being like all afraid and all my confidence level. I was just getting started my first year, I believe. And that's pretty much what he said, right? Focus on your sphere. You already have a sphere, work on that. And honestly, that's what I'm doing. More than almost half of my business comes, from my sphere. And this year, that's what I'm doing. I'm just giving all the love back to my sphere, and we'll see where it goes. But yeah,
And
thank
the
you so much,
reminder,
Shane.
so I know you got to wrap this up. I was gonna say too, the other thing too was I reminded you of how powerful you are, right? You were like, because the thing is, you were kind of like that agent waiting to say, pick me, pick me. You forgot like what a badass you are about going out there and getting it. And it's funny just talking, not necessarily me, just talking to just one of your colleagues. It just you have that aha moment. You're like, yeah, what am I doing? Like, because you went back and got to work and look at this, look where you're at now. I mean, I'm not
Yeah.
trying to take credit for that, but I'm just saying,
Oh,
like, there was just a couple
100%.
things, there was a couple things there that just you're like, oh yeah, especially for someone like yourself that's already been in business. Anyway, I know we got to wrap up. We could always we'll have to do another
No,
segment
I
with
am
you.
definitely gonna bring you back because I mean I feel like there's so many things that we can talk and go deep and you can share more examples and but yeah no I really really appreciate your time today. I know you're so busy and it's always a pleasure to hear more from you because I'm leaving this call inspired and even more gassed up for this year to go, get more deals under my belt before baby's out
Yeah.
and get this year started for sure.
Well, this year's going to be a big win for you in many aspects, but it's also going to be your best year in production while having a baby. And you could tell people next year how you had a baby and you're still kicking butt in production because
I
it can
really
be
believe
done.
that. I really do.
Yeah, you have to own that because you can. And then you could be like, what's your excuse? You know,
Yep.
so
Yep.
so no,
Wait
well,
for me, everybody. I'll come back here in a year and you're gonna hear it all because I do. I really feel like this is gonna be again the best year yet for me, like it
it
was
is.
last year. It's
I'm
just building
confident.
up.
I see it, I feel it. And I appreciate you having me here. It's been great chatting with you. And yeah, I'm always happy to come back and collaborate with you. And yeah, I'm happy
Absolutely.
to share my contact. Anyone can reach out and if anybody wants to work with us together, hey, what a team.
Yeah, I know. I know. So now, absolutely, I'll have all your information on the description. Reach out. We can schedule follow-up calls and see where you are feeling stuck or what you're needing guidance and how we can, help and put a plan together and see you winning here this year. Not next year, not next month. Let's make it happen right now. Shane, again, thank you so much, my friend. I appreciate your time. Thanks everybody for watching, and we'll see you on the next video. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.